So this year I started my business selling my art. And as of recording, I've just fulfilled over 600 orders, which is honestly insane and is not what I expected at all for this year. And in my shop, I sell quite a few different things. I of course sell my art prints, as well as stickers, posters. I also now do notebooks, Mousepads, soon to do keychains. I just did a calendar for this year, and I also do screen printed apparel that I make in my bedroom. And I get a lot of questions on how I make things myself in-house, or like where I find suppliers from. So I'm gonna cover that all today and show you how I operate a 5-figure business out of my literal bedroom. Look, it's not lost on me that it's pretty funny that I have this like aesthetic corner where I film the intro and then I make my coffee in a plastic like quart container. So I am currently editing this. I'm in my cozy blanket because it's cold in my room. But I just had to note that there is like a little like eye crusty or like eye booger or something in the corner of my eye like while I was recording, and I somehow didn't notice it, and it is pissing me the hell off, and I am ashamed and I am sad and embarrassed. So at any point, if I feel like it's like really bugging me, I'm just gonna make the frame, I'm gonna like make it really small so you can't notice it as much. Maybe you didn't even notice, but I had to point it out before you did because you're gonna notice it at some point. So yeah, I am ashamed, I'm embarrassed, I'm sorry. But anyways, back to the video. I used to have like the glass Chemex, and then I made an iced coffee and I put the ice cube in and it just shattered. So anyways, also hi, if you don't know me, my name is Tannen Arceo and I am a graphic designer and illustrator. I've been operating my business since pretty much March of this year, thanks to Instagram and doing really well over there. And I currently work part-time on my business and part-time at my college as a TA. There's also going to be timestamps below, so if there's a particular product that you want to see how I produce in my tiny little bedroom, or if you want to see, how I source it or the suppliers that I use in particular, then you can just jump to that product. So I'm going to go over how I make all this stuff in a second, but first I just want to give you like a general tour of my bedroom to show you where I fit everything in what I assume is like 100 or maybe 120 square feet. It's not a very big room. Okay, so this is the bedroom. I'm going to put it on 0.5. Just remember that the 0.5 kind of warps the perspective, so it makes it feel a little bit bigger than it actually is. But this is a full-size bed for reference. So my room is like basically 2 full-size beds like right next to each other. And then I also have this little like cutout, which is perfect because I can fit my desk this way. And then there's also all these shelves that came built in with my apartment, which is super nice. And I don't think I could operate if I didn't have these shelves. So this is like the main sort of meat of my like operations, I would say. This is where I finish up packing orders. I have my envelopes. I have, other like smaller envelopes. I have my label printer. I keep extra prints here, packaging materials, my scanner, just kind of like the random bits and bops for like packing up orders. This is my desk. It's like the Alex drawer hack or whatever. I think these are Alex drawers. I forget the model exactly, but just 2 IKEA drawers. And then this is actually a kitchen like butcher block put on top. So if that doesn't give you an idea of how big this desk is, it's probably 5 feet across and like 2.5 feet wide. It's a pretty big desk. Over here, of course, we have my bed. And you might be thinking, what's so exciting about your bed? Well, especially in a room this small, the biggest, source of space that you can utilize is underneath your bed. So I have a bunch of stuff. So these are art prints that are already packaged in this little plastic box. These are boxes of paper. This other box is calendars that I just got. These are tote bags. And then on the other side, it's over there somewhere, but I have a bin of just finished screen printed apparel. The last sort of space that I should show you is actually outside of my room. And we are lucky that in my apartment, we have this sort of under the stairs storage area. And so that's the stupid smoke detector going off. So I do have this is the cart that I use for markets. So that has all the stuff for my display. And these are actually a bunch of poster boxes I bought and then never really used. So there's also, I don't know if you can tell, but there is this big Home Depot box that isn't completely full, but it is full of some extra bags and sleeves and stuff that I use for packing orders. So that's pretty much where I keep most of my main stuff. In my bedroom, I have to be very conscious about the sort of space that I'm using and really use it to the max. I've lived in small bedrooms before, even smaller than this room. And so I'm really good about sort of space economy. So the first thing that I want to show you how I make and package and ship are my art prints, because that's probably one of the biggest things that people have questions about. So let's jump into that. So first, I guess I should show you let me show you what the actual print itself looks like without the plastic, just the print by itself. Hopefully the lighting in here is decent. Oh wow, that is way better. So yeah, this is the quality of the art print. For reference, this is like the size of my fingernail. And I mean, it might not pick up on camera, but I think it will. You can literally read the tiny little labels that I have. Again, fingernail for reference, that I have for all of the pastries in here. You know, you can see the details in the products in the back, the little cat on the shelf, the even smaller products as you go farther back, all of the sort of racks for the baking sheet. You can really get in there. So that's the quality of my printer for reference. And this is sort of after I've done a lot of testing to get the colors right and just done a lot of, you know, experimentation with my printer, I would say. And then in terms of packaging, you know, it's pretty simple. It's just a backing sheet and then a plastic sleeve. I will say, when I started my shop, I did not always use plastic. I actually used glassine bags, which are like an eco-friendly alternative to plastic. They're kind of like that wax papery bag that you'll get when you get like a croissant or something. But I actually switched to plastic specifically because of markets. Now that I do a lot of in-person markets, I have my prints just in a bin and people can like rifle through them. And so it's obviously, you just need plastic so people can actually see the prints, and so they're protected like super well from, you know, water or oils on people's fingers and all that stuff. Glassine is pretty good at that, but it's not waterproof. It's mostly like water resistant. So plastic is just like, not only that, it's also not completely see-through. So plastic just works best for in-person events. So that's the sort of like packaging materials I use for them. I'm gonna quickly show you how I actually print them on my printer and then cut them to size. So I actually have them all on a sheet, and then what I'll do is I'll print that sheet in total and then cut them down to size. I'll make sure that the height is set correctly to 11 inches. That should fill it up perfectly. You'll see these sort of gray margins on the edge. That means that this is basically a paper size that I can't print all the way to the border, which is okay in this case, because as long as my design is within the margins, it's like fine. I also am in, this is professional print and layout, like Canon's professional print and layout. So I have my file loaded up. I can press print just whenever I'm ready. And I just grabbed some paper from underneath my bed. And this is a pretty popular paper brand. It's called Red River Paper. They, I would say, are some of the best you're gonna get for, like, the best quality you'll get for the price. I do actually have an affiliate code with them, but I don't know if it works or not, because I feel like some people have told me that they purchase paper using the code, and I have not seen $1 of, like, it's not gonna be a lot, but I haven't seen a penny. Whether or not I'm technically sponsored by them, I would still recommend them anyways, because they're just pretty popular within like the art world that I've seen. Like a lot of other artists I know use them. So I use the Aurora Art Natural 300. There's also a 250 GSM. So the 250 is slightly not as thick or not as heavy, but it's a bit cheaper. And I actually know quite a few artists who also use that. So if you want a slightly cheaper option, you can do that. I just like the look and feel of a really nice, thick, sturdy print. When that is all done, I will just go ahead and press print. And there's one thing in particular with this printer that I think is like pretty common, which is for the very thick papers, you kind of have to sit here and wait for each sheet to go through. So this is what happens if I just leave the paper in here and I don't attempt to help feed it into, you know, the printer. You can hear those sort of clicks. It's basically it's like kind of grabbing the paper, but it's not fully able to pull it in just of its own, you know, tools or whatever. If it's thinner, regular printer paper, the sticker paper I use for this, even some of the thinner papers like the 210 GSM paper I have, totally fine. The 250, the 300s, that's when you start getting too thick for the paper to be able to feed itself. So it'll give you this sort of like error code. It thinks that there's no paper in the feed, so I'll press OK, and then I just ever so slightly have to help it and then actually feed it into the printer. Obviously, in an ideal world, you would be able to put 10 pages in there, hit print 10 prints, and then like walk away and do your own thing. But it's just sort of the name of the game, and something that I've learned is pretty common with, I think, most fine art printers is like the thicker papers, you're gonna have to sit there and sort of help them with it. So quickly, I'll talk about the pros and cons, I think, of printing yourself, because it really depends on the type of person. The biggest con, I would say, is how much time it takes. Also how loud this thing is, but mostly the time. Because like I said, you can't just print 10, you know, pages and then walk away, or hit, you know, press print and then walk away. You have to sort of sit here and coax each page through, which means, like, I'll often watch a show or something or be doing other work while I'm printing in the background just to have it kind of constantly running. Because if I realize I have to just sit here and print 50 prints, you know, it's gonna take me forever, and it's like not a great use of my time. The other big con is, of course, upfront cost. I think this printer is $850 retail. I will say I bought mine used off eBay. I would highly recommend doing a lot of research if you're gonna buy a used printer. Also make sure that the seller, you know, accepts returns, or that eBay has like a money back guarantee, because used printers, while they can be great and you can get a really good deal, can also, you know, show up and just be total duds. Now, the pros of printing yourself is, obviously the biggest one is savings. By printing myself, I don't know exact margins here because it really depends on like how much it costs to outsource your prints and the sort of quality that you're trying to emulate. But I'm gonna just go off on a limb and say it probably costs me 50% less to print myself than it would if I'm outsourcing the manufacturing, because it's not even the material costs, it's the labor costs, right? Like I just said, it takes so much time for me to print. I'm the one doing the labor, so the labor is free for me. But when I'm paying another company to make and produce my prints, I'm paying for their labor and for shipping on top of it, right? So if one of these prints, this isn't exactly how much it costs, but say this print cost me $1 per print with my own printer, I'm gonna say that it would probably cost $2 when I outsource them. I'll leave a link to his video. I'm forgetting his name, but he's he's the printer guy. That's what I think of him here on YouTube. And he's done reviews on this printer as well as a couple other ones that are pretty popular in the sort of like making your own prints category. If you want to check out Keith Cooper, I just remembered. Shout out to Keith, I love you. But if you want to look into printers and see which one might be right for you, I would definitely recommend going to his channel because that's not really what I'm like about. But okay, so I just printed those 4 prints. They look like this when they come out. In the bottom of my closet, next to my suitcase, I keep my guillotine for cutting all my prints. You also might notice I don't have crop marks on my prints, which may be like an insane thing to do. I don't know. Dude, like registration marks, crop marks, whatever they're called, like to me, they don't really make sense. I just eyeball it. But yeah, so this is what my prints ended up looking like. I have my little stack of 4 prints here. Then I would just rinse and repeat this for as many as I needed. Sometimes I'll pack them in the sort of like sleeves right away, especially if I have a market upcoming, I will put them like this. But if I just need the prints for something, but I don't necessarily need to package them, then I just put them, these are the glassine bags I was talking about earlier, I'll put them in there. So then in terms of shipping, I have these are called rigid envelopes or rigid mailers. That's what you'll like, Google when you're trying to find them. But I just basically keep the print as it is. I'll put a little thank you card and a sticker like in the back side of it here. And then I take that, I put it in my mailer, fold that up, and then I have my little do not bend labels that I print on there as well. The other thing that I'll have to print out obviously is a shipping label. So I have a label printer. I love this thing. Honestly, I don't necessarily need it right now. I bought it when I was getting a lot more orders. Now I don't get as many, but it does come in handy for those days that I have maybe 10 or 15 orders to fulfill, and I can just print them out one by one, rather than having to print out the labels on like printer paper, cut them to size, and then tape them onto each package. But the label printer, much like the actual printer, I would only recommend buying if you know that you're going to be able to make that money back, because that label printer, even though it was used, I think it was like 200 bucks. Okay, so that's how I make all of my prints. Now, I want to show you how I make my stickers. So I have this little, organizer box. It actually only came with these 4 blue like dividers to start, but maybe you can see I've put in sort of like cardboard dividers as well to give more sort of organization capabilities for this box. And in here, I keep all of my stickers, as well as like mini prints of my artworks, which I don't currently have on my shop. I'm gonna list them, I think, sometime soon, but I mostly sell the mini prints in person at events. So stickers, I would say, if you are mainly selling stickers, if stickers is like the big part of your shop, if you're selling like, dozens of stickers a week, then you're probably gonna wanna outsource them. Because making your prints, yes, it takes a lot of time, but the margin for, the cost is worth it, right? Stickers, on the other hand, you can get for as cheap as like 2 cents a sticker. So I just make my stickers myself, and then I just cut them by hand, but I also don't sell that many stickers. They mostly sell at markets again. Online, I get like a couple sticker orders a week, maybe. It's usually something that people like throw onto a bigger order. But if you do want to make your own stickers in-house, or maybe you're not even selling them, but you want to like have them as little like sort of packaging, like add-ons or something, I'll just show you how I do it because it's really not that hard. So up in this little corner, I keep my sticker paper as well. These are like rigid envelopes, and then on top of that, I just keep some extra paper. And I always keep the sticker on it that says like front side, which means the side that you should print on. Some like packages won't come with that, and so I'll just write on here like this side up so I know which side to print on. So basically it just looks like a sheet of paper, but it's technically 2 sheets, and one is the backing sheet, and then the other, this front side, is like the sticker part that will be printed on. And then we're gonna go ahead, print it, and then we'll laminate it after as well. Okay, so I've gone ahead, I've printed my paper. I do let these sit for like at least 3 to 5 minutes because I've never had this happen, but I've heard that sometimes if the ink is still wet after you laminate it, the ink can like bleed out into the rest of the paper. So I just like to like let it fully dry for a minute. Also ignore the like blank space. I don't know what to put up on this side of my wall yet. I think I need like a poster or something. I ran out of my own poster designs, but I guess that means I have to design something else. Anyway, so I'm gonna grab my laminate. I use the rolls because I think it's like slightly cheaper to buy it in roll form versus buying the like sheets. Obviously this means that it comes like slightly curved, so it's a little bit harder, but it's really not that hard. I mean, laminating in general is pretty hard. I don't think that the slight curve in the paper makes it much harder than it normally is. And I'm all about saving money. So if I can save some money by buying it in roll form, I'm gonna do that. So I always cut about an extra, maybe ½ inch on either side, because sometimes when I go to lay it down, I might end up putting it at like an ever so slight angle, and I just want that extra wiggle room to be able to like not have it perfectly lined up. So the laminate that I bought came with this little like tool, which is really helpful for like squeegeeing out all the bubbles, but you could also just use like a credit card or something like that. Before I do anything else, I like to usually take like a microfiber cloth and just ever so lightly wipe off the surface of my paper, because sometimes you'll have like a dust speck or a crumb or something that gets caught under there. Besides the like action of laminating, this is the hardest part, getting the stupid corner off this thing. I take the entire backing sheet off. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get this, like the bottom edge of my laminate here, parallel with the bottom edge of the page. So then I usually run my finger over the back just to make sure it's like stuck down to the table. And I forgot the video I learned this from, but this is the best trick that's worked for me. I keep the laminate pulled like straight up. And as I'm pulling straight up, I'm using the squeegee and I'm pushing down and away. So with my left hand, I'm just pulling straight towards the ceiling. And with my right hand, I'm just pushing down and away. And if I see any sort of air pockets, I'm just gonna let them be and I'll deal with them after. And I'm pushing straight through the middle here. And there we go. The good thing about pushing towards the middle means that there's no air pockets in the middle here. So if there is any on the outside, they're closer to the edge of the page and I can likely get those out anyways. So like here, it looks like it's kind of like discolored or something. That's just because I haven't really like flushed it out, right? So there was no air pocket there, but this laminate, I don't know if this is all laminates or just this one, but look, now that I've done it, you can still see it here, right? I just have to go over that with a little more pressure and just get it to like make sure that it's completely adhered to the sticker. And now it looks perfectly fine. Obviously this part can be pretty tedious, and this is why I said if stickers are like a big part of your shop, it's really worth it to look into outsourcing them, because doing a lot of these by hand is very time consuming, and honestly, especially with these scissors, gives me like really bad hand cramps sometimes. And there we go. Now I have a finished little sticker. You know, the border is not going to be perfect when you do it by hand. You'll kind of see like the irregularities, but it's good enough. So that's how I make my art prints and my stickers. The last thing that I make basically completely by hand myself in my room is screen printed apparel. This could be a whole video in and of itself. I also don't have anything I need to screen print today, so I'm not gonna just like do that for, you know, like a how-to guide. So these next few tips are gonna be very screen printed oriented, especially like DIY screen printing. So if you don't know much about it, you can just like jump to the next product category. But if you're really looking into getting into it, then I have a couple tips and tricks. The first thing is if you're doing it at home, use small screens. I have one big screen and it is cumbersome. It is very annoying to wash this in the sink. My bathtub, or like my bathroom, the shower, doesn't have like a detachable hose, so I can't wash this in my tub. I have to wash this in my sink. I would recommend only using like smaller screens than that. So I have 3 of these like 8x10 screens, and these are good for like most of the stuff I do. Basically, I would say most of my screen prints now are going to be the most like patchwork stuff. So if I want to cover a large area, I can just do a bunch of small screens with different designs and then kind of put them together. I do have the one big screen in case I want to do one big design, you know, for the entire back of a shirt or something. I used to have 2 and then I ripped the other one. The other thing I can think of is specifically if you're using white ink. White ink, especially when it comes to screen printing, is like, I was doing a lot of research, is apparently pretty notoriously like tricky. I started off using Speedball's white ink because it came with like the kit that I was using, but I would not recommend Speedball's white ink. I cured it with an iron for like 5 minutes, which should have been totally fine, and then I went to wash everything and it just like flaked off. So that was very sad and depressing. But I learned my lesson, I did some more research, and now I use its Green Galaxy's Comet White. This is their water-based ink. I only print water-based inks at home because it's just slightly less messy. I don't have to keep like the chemicals on hand. The other thing I would recommend if you're using this at home and you don't have this sort of industrial equipment is also by Green Galaxy, but it is called Warp Drive by Green Galaxy is what you can look up. This stuff is super toxic, so I don't want to touch it for too long. So basically what that does is it lowers the temperature at which the ink will cure. And I did a bunch of patch tests. That, after 2 days of just air drying, it actually cured it without even ironing it. Like, the difference between the one that I ironed and the one that I didn't iron was like basically the same. But I would highly recommend that if you're having trouble curing your stuff properly, because it does work really well. The only thing is, once you add it to a batch of ink, you can't like put that ink back in the pot anymore, because of course it's gonna like activate the rest of it. So just make sure that you're, you know, not using too much ink at once. Like I said, screen printing is like a whole video in and of itself. So when I have another run of stuff that I want to make with screen printing, then I will probably show more behind the scenes. But I already have a bunch of stuff already stockpiled, so I don't have to print for probably another month or 2. But moving on to the next product category are keychains. Now, I actually don't have these on my site currently, but I am planning on adding them probably in the next like month or so. But I'm getting into these because I just thought that they would be so cute. This one is like probably my favorite. Oops, it's a little soy sauce bottle. I don't know if you can read it, but it says Kiko Woman. But these are so cute, so adorable, and really honestly not that hard to get. The supplier that I use for these is called Vograce, and they make acrylic charms, like keychains, they make notebooks, like a bunch of stuff. I believe they don't have an order minimum, which is really nice. So when I first ordered these, I only got 6. I got 3 designs and I got 2 of each. And they have a bunch of different, like, what are these called? Like this part, what is this called? Like the keychain part. They have a bunch of different like ways to attach them. So you get to pick from that. They have different colors of these, like different clasps, different colors. And you can get like different stuff added on top. So I could have gotten like a holographic like glitter on top, or different types of resin or epoxy. But I ended up going with just the bare bones, just regular like acrylic keychain. They don't have an order minimum, but they do offer discounts the more you get. So I believe if you get over like 10, you get a certain discount. If you get over 50, that's a certain discount. So they basically incentivize you to order more because each unit will cost less. I will say the big thing with Vograce is the shipping times are pretty slow, because I believe that they're based out of China. They may or may not have a US manufacturer as well, but I'm pretty sure they're based out of China. And so for me, for getting 6 keychains from ordering, I think it took like 16 days. And I currently have a batch of keychains for 68 keychains, and I think it's been over 2 weeks. And I don't know exactly when. I think I saw that it was updated that the package is in California and I'm in New York. So I imagine that's going to take about another week or so to get here. So I would say like order a month out in advance. But I will say the quality is really nice, and something that they really seem to take into account is the border. It's kind of hard to show because it's like a clear thing, but the border on this keychain is like perfectly uniform all the way around. The process for ordering from them honestly isn't too difficult. They have all the instructions on their website and they're pretty self-explanatory. The biggest thing with them is, say you want the bulk discount, right? So say you want to order 50 keychains because you'll get more of a % off. You can do that and you can still do different designs. You just have to kind of upload the files differently. Basically what you'll do is you'll add all of your designs into a single folder and then make that a zip folder, and then you'll upload that. And then just make sure you name your files like appropriately too. So say I wanted 10 of these and I want this black clasp. They have numbers that correspond to each of the sort of like, what, I forget what this is called, this dealio. But I would just name it like, I would name the file soy sauce dash the quantity number. So it'd be like soy sauce dash 10 dash, I think this one is 1407. So that would tell them that the name of the file is soy sauce. It would tell them I wanted 10 of these, and then the 1407 would make sure that I get the right clasp. So far, I've only ordered keychains from them, but they do have like a notebook or sketchbook option, which is very intriguing to me. However, I emailed their customer service and they only have 80 GSM paper, which to me is not the best. I was hoping for like 150. I would take even like 120 or something, even maybe 100. But 80 GSM is not super thick. So yeah, the hunt for a good sketchbook manufacturer continues. If you have a good manufacturer, let me know. Again, I'm looking for like 150 GSM paper, ideally more, but like that's, I think, like what I'm aiming for. Just something that I think I could do watercolor on, or like a wash if I wanted to. So the last few products that I am now selling are, I sell notebooks. So like I just said, I'm looking for a sketchbook manufacturer, but I currently do sell notebooks of just like lined paper. I also now just did some mouse pads. So those have been fun, and like, again, print quality is actually really good. And last but not least, I also made a calendar this year. So that was a really fun project. But all of these, I'm putting them all into one category because they all come from the same sort of place. Now, by the way, this is not sponsored. I should have said that earlier, but I just wanted to tell you exactly where I source things from. I guess I did mention, like, I technically have an affiliate code with Red River Paper. That's the only thing that I'm, like, kind of sponsored by. But again, I don't even know if my code is working or not. But I just wanted to be upfront about where I get things because sometimes it helps to know people's, you know, manufacturers in case you wanted to get products similar to mine. But yeah, I should have said that earlier. But the notebooks, the mousepad, and the calendar that I just showed you, I all got from the same sort of marketplace on an app called Printify. So you may have heard the term print on demand before. So print on demand basically it's a manufacturer that also ships and sells individual orders for you. So for example, I just talked about Vogue Race for my keychains, right? So they are a manufacturer. They produce items that they sell in bulk to me. But then I have to go and sell these items directly to my customers, right? So I would have to package and ship this and send it to a person. If it was a print-on-demand company, like, for example, Printify, if Printify made keychains, I'd probably use them. Because what they would do is make one keychain, just one, I don't have to buy bulk from them. They'd make one keychain, and they would ship it and sell it. Well, they wouldn't sell it, but they would ship it to my customer. So that means for these products, if somebody buys one from me, I don't have to house inventory myself, which means if somebody buys 2 of these notebooks, I can just go to Printify and press fulfill order. They will start production on these notebooks and then send it out. That was really nice when it came to my calendars because I had no idea how many we're gonna sell. So if I bought like 50 or 100 of them, I was really gonna have to hope to sell all that amount. Otherwise, I potentially lose money. With print on demand, the risk is like pretty much non-existent because you're only paying for what has actually been ordered, rather than like traditional manufacturing where you have to order stuff in bulk and then hope that you sell it. So Printify or print on demand is like a whole video also in and of itself. But I'll quickly just show you the manufacturers that I use within Printify. So if you're already on there, you can use the ones that I'm using. So I honestly forget which one I use for which, but I'll just put it on screen. So I'll say, this is the one that I use for notebooks. This is the manufacturer that I use for my mouse pads. And this is the manufacturer I use for my calendars, which by the way are totally custom. And I designed the grid as well as the images. So some of them have the grid already made, but I was able to use my own grid. Okay, Editing Tannen is back with a quick note because something I forgot to mention is that with print on demand, shipping costs can add up really quickly. And you might not think about it, but it makes sense because basically if people add different products from different manufacturers, they have to pay for shipping from multiple locations. So if somebody puts a notebook and a calendar and some art prints in their cart, they will be paying for shipping from the notebook manufacturer, from the calendar manufacturer, and from me because, you know, I fulfill my own art prints. Whereas if they only added a calendar to their cart, they would only be paying for the calendar shipping. It gets confusing for customers because it is one shipping cost, but they will be receiving 3 individual packages. So they really are paying for 3 different shipping costs. This is definitely something to consider when thinking about using print on demand, and it's definitely something I'm going to consider moving forward. And I'm kind of trying to wean off of print on demand for this reason. I would like people to be able to add stuff to their cart, and shipping will get more expensive as they add more products because the weight will go up, but hopefully it's not so expensive that it will dissuade them from like making a purchase. It is tough because print on demand did help out a lot, and I don't think I would have made a calendar without them this year. But for next year, I'm going to think ahead a bit more, and I'll probably like do pre-orders and then order, you know, bulk calendars to my home so I can ship them out from here. That way, in case somebody orders calendars and prints and keychains or something, they only pay 1 shipping cost. But yeah, I wanted to mention that because I think that's something that you should definitely keep in mind if you're looking into print on demand. I would say the big thing with Printify is really testing out the manufacturers and sampling the products before you just start selling them. You can link a product to your shop and sell it without ever having actually seen that product yourself. But obviously, I do not recommend this because there have been certain products that I get. Actually, for example, I ordered this sample, right? This is a notebook, but it's like, you know, just a soft cover. It's not hardback, and there is a print on the inside too, which is cool, but you know, whatever. I wasn't super impressed with this. I think it's like 50 or 60 pages. It's kind of whatever. And then I realized that this notebook is only $1 less to get made than a hardback notebook, which is crazy. I think these are like $8.90 and these are $9.90 to get manufactured. I've also gotten posters and stuff from them before where the quality was really bad or the print was off or something was weird. So I now will design something and then I order a sample of it as soon as I can, because that's the thing with this sort of like product development is there's always going to be this sort of in-between time where you're ordering a sample, you're testing out the quality. Obviously that sample has to get shipped to you. You might have to order another sample to make some adjustments to it, and then eventually can go into actual production. That's why I like to make stickers, prints, and my apparel myself, because I don't have to have this sort of back and forth with a manufacturer to get something looking like how I want it to. I can just ensure that it's going to look how I want it because I'm making it. But of course, there's certain products that I want to sell, like Mousepads, that I will never be able to make myself. So with that out of the way, I will quickly show you what it sort of looks like in Printify when an order goes through, and like what it looks on my back end of how to send it to the manufacturer. So I've logged in, do not judge my tabs. I've logged in to Printify and I went to orders. I just want to stress that I normally don't have this many orders, you guys, but I did launch a calendar, which again is through Printify, and so I just happened to actually, I got a lot more orders than I thought, which is awesome. But basically this dashboard, they all say on hold here, and so that just means that this order will go through by itself. I think in 48 hours, it will basically get put into production, but it also gets put on hold right away. So Peter placed his order, and it didn't get sent to manufacturing right away because it will charge my card instantly. So I think they like put it on hold to make sure that you have enough funds, so that way when these get put through, you know, your card doesn't get like declined or whatever. If I wanted to, I could submit the order from here, but I could also click on this order, and let me zoom in here so I don't have his shipping address anywhere. But on the order, I can see some information, like I can see the cost of the production, and then I can see how much it costs to actually ship that product. And then I can compare that total cost to what, you know, Peter paid. So I have a rough, not even a rough, but I have like a profit margin for him. Also on this page, actually I might as well right now, again, I'm just, you know, blocking out his shipping information, but I can just press submit, and then that will go through and it will instantly charge my card as well. So I just got a notification for being charged $41.40 to my card, and now it says sending to production. They'll basically accept it. It's almost like an Uber Eats order. They'll be like, okay, accept it, then it'll change to in production, and then obviously once they finally ship it out, it will say shipped, and then when it's been delivered, it will say delivered. Now, I will say, I swear guys, this is not an ad, but I will say one kind of cool thing about Printify is that you can order samples of any of their products, and there is no minimum or maximum. So I can order a sample of just one calendar, I could order a sample of 20 calendars. And that's what I did, because I have a bunch of upcoming markets, and so after I tested the calendars once and I was like, okay, I like this quality, I ordered 20 of them, so at in-person markets, I can also sell my calendars as well. So it worked out pretty well this year because honestly, my calendar was kind of a last-minute idea. I literally stayed up till like 3 a.m. a few weeks ago just designing it, and I was like, okay, I want to do this, and I needed to get it out as soon as I could. So that's why I used Printify, because they had a few suppliers that made calendars and that I was able to test out quickly. So yeah, I think that is basically everything that I kind of had to cover. That's all the different types of products I made, sort of how I get them done, or how I manufacture them. Like I said, if you want that video specifically on screen printing, you may have to wait a little bit because I just don't have anything I need to screen print in the near future. So sorry. But yeah, I just wanted to make this video to share, you know, sort of some tips and tricks and some stuff that I've picked up along the way. You know, I'm still very new to running my own art shop. I just started again in March of this year. And I'm still trying to figure out a lot of stuff myself. But I do get quite a few questions, especially over on Instagram, as to how I make or where I source my certain products from. So I wanted to cover this in one video. If you have any questions, let me know. I'd also love to hear if you are an artist yourself and you sell stuff, if you have any better manufacturers for certain products. Like I mentioned earlier, sketchbooks is the biggest one. If you have a good sketchbook manufacturer, that would be sick. Because we do not gatekeep around here. At least I try not to. Also, if you watched this far in the video, maybe consider hitting that subscribe button because you seem to like it, right? But I make videos on just kind of everything regarding my business right now. Anything from balancing like commissions and sort of burnout to the logistical means of like how I make my stuff, to figuring out like exactly the sort of direction I'm going. There's a lot of existential questions when it comes to selling your art, and so I want to explore that in other videos as well. But whether or not you subscribe, that's totally fine. Thank you so much just for watching this video all the way through, and I hope you have a good day, a good night, whatever it is, wherever you are, and I will see you in the next video.